Yesterday we were talking about how we looked at the first statement in chapter 5. So the first statement in chapter 5 says that secret mantra also exists, also occurs, also exists in the teachings of the other Buddhas. And so I think one way to really understand, this is to say that if we think of secret mantra as like the outer trappings of secret mantra, then maybe, seems like, maybe, other Buddhas don't teach secret mantra. But secret mantra, in fact, is part and parcel of this one single reality, or rather what is taught in the secret mantra is part and parcel of what we realize along the way from here to complete Buddhahood. So to say that then secret mantra is not taught by other Buddhas, or not taught by this or that Buddha, is to say that this or that Buddha didn't teach the whole kind of, range of the profundity of what needs to be realized. So that cannot be the case, So then in our book, those of you who have this book, on page 35, I call your attention to, this is basically one of the early commentaries written by Rinchen Changchuk. Rinchen Changchuk has a summary whereby he helps us connect the main Vajra statements with the Vajra statements in the auxiliary or the miscellaneous chapter 8, those 46 Vajra statements. In the Bodhisattva vows section, not many statements are connected. But in chapter 5, so here, if you look at 35, it says, in the chapter on the vital points of the vows of secret mantra for the masters of awareness, meaning Vidyadharas, there are 28 Vajra statements and 17 supplements. So many statements in chapter 8 can be connected directly to statements in chapter 5. Out of 28, there are 17 supplementary statements. Translator here calls them the supplementary statements. And when you bring those statements together, those supplementary statements to these main statements, it further illuminates for us what is being emphasized in these statements. So the first Vajra statement, the secret mantra also occurs in the teachings of other Buddhas, should be combined with the supplementary Vajra statement, statement 24 in chapter 8, which says, secret mantra belongs to all the three collections of the Buddha's teachings. Or you could also say, it is the essence of all the three collections. So the three collections refer to the Tripitaka. Especially during time of Kyobpa Rinpoche, this category of Tripitaka, which comes from India, which is shared by other Buddhist tradition, referring to the collection of the Buddha's authoritative teachings as the Tripitaka. Tri is like English 3, meaning Cik Ni Sum 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3. Tres. Pitaka, collection. So all the Buddha's teachings is divided into these three collections. The Vinaya collection, the Sutra collection, and the Abhidharma collection. Later in Tibet, Tripitaka isn't used so often to refer to the Buddha's teachings, because later in Tibet, they started to divide the teachings that come from India into what they call the Gangyur and the Tengyur. So if you were to ask, okay, how does the Gangyur and Tengyur fit into this Tripitaka? Then Tripitaka only covers Gangyur. Ka is words of the Buddha. Gyur is the translated words of the Buddha. Then, when they organize the Kagyo, then the Tripitaka is found in the Kagyo. But during Kyobpa Rinpoche's time in the 12th century, there was no Kagyo yet. No Kagyo yet. Various different sutras and tantras of the Buddha was available in Tibet, but not like available today, Basically, you go on Google, you Google, and you can find them. Either you have to purchase or you can download for free. Not like that, in Kyobpa's time. Texts, very rare. You may have heard, there's this text called the Lankavatara Sutra. And miles and miles and miles away, nobody has a copy of the Lankavatara. You may have heard, there is the perfection of wisdom in 100,000 verses. Who has a copy? No, nobody. Like far away, some monastery, they got one copy, and they're not going to lend it to you. You want to read it? Well, you've got to go there and see if they'll let you read it. Probably not. Maybe they're afraid you'll steal it, I mean, really, because these are very rare, precious, yeah. So like in Kyobpa Rinpoche's biography, the earliest biography we have of him, written again by Chinga Sherab Chungne, there are several references to disciples presenting him with these sutras, these translated sutras and tantras. But especially, I don't remember reading about tantras being presented to him, but sutras, like the perfection of wisdom in 100,000 verses, like the longest Panyaparamita perfection of wisdom text. Like a particular student will commission a whole complete set, written with gold ink and on these very precious paper. It's blue in color, dark blue in color, very special paper. Insects will not bite, because this paper actually, part of how it's special is like there's some kind of insect repellent, so slightly poisonous. So that insects won't eat it. Not that it will kill the insects, but insects won't eat it. Yeah. So these texts, very precious. So this is the reference here to the three Pitaka. So here it says, secret mantra belongs to all, the entire three Pitaka, the three collections. There is some attempt also to say, secret mantra teachings are considered the Abhidharma teachings. Abhidharma means further Dharma or higher Dharma. Then some people in Tibet will say, actually, the Tripitaka do not include secret mantra. Secret mantra is the Quattro Pitaka, the fourth Pitaka. They call it the fourth Pitaka, like it's so special, it's its own collection, it's its own Pitaka. In India, you have references to something like that. They call the Dharani Pitaka, which is you could say the proto secret mantra Pitaka. But here, Kyobpa Rinpoche wants to emphasize that actually, secret mantra is in all three. No need to differentiate it out as a fourth Pitaka. Secret mantra is in the Vinaya. Secret mantra is in the Sutra. Secret mantra is in Abhidharma. In fact, secret mantra, as it says in statement 24 of chapter 8, is the essence of all these teachings. So now it brings out even more clearly how it is impossible that other Buddhas don't teach secret mantra. Other Buddhas may or may not teach secret mantra the way we are familiar with it, with all the outer trappings that we are familiar with. Again, right? Bell, Dorje, Bumba, this, that, all those things. But don't get distracted. Don't get confused and think, oh, that is what secret mantra is. No, secret mantra is the essence of all the different teachings. Because then again, there are some people who say, Vinaya, individual liberation vows are in the Vinaya. In the Vinaya collection are the individual liberation vows. And therefore, it doesn't have any of these profound secret mantra teachings in the Vinaya. Kyobpa Rinpoche will say, no, actually, many of the trainings in the Vinaya is based on Buddhas having seen things from the perspective of what you and I call secret mantra, meaning the most profound, the most essential level, and understood how things are, and then gave it in the form of the prescriptions and the proscriptions found in the Vinaya. This don't do because it will bring suffering. This do because it will bring happiness. So again, a lot, even now these days, contemporary, many people who practice Tibetan Buddhism, get carried away and say, oh, Vinaya, that's Buddhism for dummies. That's for the very basic kind of people. We are more advanced, So we are the fourth Pitaka, the secret mantra Pitaka, that if you practice that, you don't need to practice the other three Pitakas. Or if you practice secret mantra, no need, this bodhisattva business, this individual liberation business. And usually they won't say no need this bodhisattva business, because that bodhisattva business, right? Visions of grandeur, Oh, I'm going to save all beings. Everybody loves that because it's easier than saving yourself, It's like, I'm going to go save all beings, I'm going to go purified, right? The obscurations of all beings, Meanwhile, you look in your sink, it's filled with dirty dishes. You look in one corner of your room, it's piled up with dirty laundry. I don't want to do laundry, it's so boring. I don't want to do my dishes, it's so boring. Then how are you going to save the world? So anyway, love bodhisattva. Then individual liberation vows, that's the doing your laundry, so to say. The spiritual doing your laundry so that you don't stink. Wash your plates and your bowls and the spoons and your fork, so that it doesn't attract insects, ants. I know, so boring. I don't want. So here, Kyobpa Rinpoche in Statement 24, linking up to Statement 24, Chapter 8, linking up to Statement 1 of Chapter 5, says actually secret mantra is at the heart of all these different teachings. Yeah, so that's 1 connected to 5.1 connected to 8.24. Now 5.2. Jigten Sumgon maintains that when the meaning of an empowerment has arisen in your mind, in your mind stream, in your being, then you have obtained it. So this is in response to questions of, how do you receive empowerment? How do you receive empowerment? When can you say, oh, I have received an empowerment? I have received the empowerment. In fact, all empowerments are basically one single empowerment. That is, to have been empowered, so to say, to have activated. You can think of empowerment as activation. Activation of what? Activation of your Buddha nature. Not creating your Buddha nature. Your Buddha nature is already present as Buddha nature, but activating your Buddha nature. Like, like an old car that you have, that have not been driven for a long time. What is empowerment? Empowerment is when your neighbor comes, with her car, with the cables to jumpstart your car. Jumpstart your car, now you can drive your car. Not bring you a new car bring you a car that you didn't have, no. Neighbor comes with their car, with the jumper cables to get your car started because your battery is dead. That's empowerment, That's the essence of empowerment. Then, because in secret mantra, often empowerment is associated with this deity, that deity, that deity, that deity, that deity. Yeah. But in the end, it's not really about deities. We become polytheistic if we start, this deity, this deity, this deity is different from this deity, this deity is this deity, this deity is that deity, this deity, that deity. The real empowerment is to have us realize our nature, to unlock that power, to empower. Wang. Wang is power. Not Wang in Indonesian, okay? That's money. Not about money. Well, some people, money is power, yeah, so maybe. But to jumpstart, that power. Now, most of us, like when people come and jumpstart our car, we get so excited. It started, Then the neighbor goes home. Then you turn off your car, you go home, you're like, oh, started. Tomorrow morning, you try to start, it won't start because after jump starting, what do you need to do? You need to let it run so that it can recharge, right? The batteries. And they say, you have to go drive it. But no, we let it die out. Then we're so happy, like, oh, I have this car, the car that runs and everything, It doesn't have to go to the museum. I thought it cannot be used anymore, right? But you're so happy by it, but you don't habituate. You don't continue to charge it. And then you leave it in the garage. Then again, after a while, you forgot that you have it. You forgot that it works. And then you need another empowerment, and then another empowerment, and then another empowerment, And so you're here, Kyobpa Rinpoche is answering the question of how, when can we say that you have received an empowerment? And he says, it's when the meaning of the empowerment has arisen. Now, there is one ultimate meaning of empowerment. And that meaning is, of course, about our Buddha nature. Yeah, so that's like if you want to summarize, you say, well, what is the one meaning? Well, the one meaning is we are Buddhas. But within the structure of an empowerment, often it is divided into subdivisions. Like, for example, the most common is for empowerments to have 4 empowerments. So an empowerment ritual, within that ritual, the 4 main empowerments. Then within each of the 4 empowerments, in very detailed tantras, they give further subdivisions. For example, the 4 empowerments. So first of all, this is the 4 empowerments that you'll come across in this chapter. So you should try to remember what these 4 are, or maybe write it down. So these 4 empowerments are, the first one is called the vase empowerment, vase or vase, meaning, like flower vase, vase empowerment. Because the name comes from the fact that, a vase, superficially, right? These are the outer trappings of secret mantra as we know it. The vase is used to empower, to give you power, to pour the contents of this vase into you, to fill you with. So that name, vase empowerment. So that's one. First empowerment. Second empowerment is called secret empowerment. Third empowerment is called wisdom knowledge empowerment. Knowledge of the wisdom, you could also say that. Wisdom knowledge, or knowledge, knowing the wisdom empowerment is the third. And then the fourth empowerment is called the word empowerment. Empowerment. Why is it called word empowerment? Because that's often given by the Lama, the Guru, the Vajra Master, saying certain words, using certain words to ignite in you the realization associated with that level of empowerment. So these 4 empowerments are more and more profound realizations of the basic realization, which is we are Buddha. Right now, you and I have intellectual acceptance, understanding of empowerment. But in an empowerment, it needs to be more than intellectual. But it doesn't mean like Buddhahood. So sometimes when we talk about this, it sounds like we're talking about attaining Buddhahood. Then no, we're not talking about that. But definitely what we are talking about is more than intellectual, a deeper way of like being convinced that we are Buddha. And that is the main kind of realization being ignited. And that's the main jump starting. Right? Is that meaning has arisen. So Vajra Statement number 2 is talking about that. That meaning has arisen. Then, of course, with each of these 4 empowerments, there are different aspects of that main meaning being conveyed. And if we recognize what is being conveyed, then we can say, I have received fully the vase empowerment. Vase empowerment, like I said, sometimes further divided into different aspects. So, for example, if I have not remembered, if I remembered correctly, for example, in the Kala Chakra, which is the most detailed and extensive of all the tantras, the Kala Chakra. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama has given that many times publicly. The vase empowerment consists of 11 separate empowerments within that. And in fact, in most of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's Kala Chakra empowerment, mostly what he gives is the vase empowerment. In fact, he doesn't do the second, third, and fourth in these public Kala Chakra. He just gives the vase empowerment. And even that, takes like 3-4 days. One time when I attended this in the Kalachakra in Washington, D.C. in 2012, maybe some of you were there, 2012, right, in the Verizon Center, close to Chinatown. Astrid, you were there? Oh, okay, so we were in the same Kalachakra. Actually, in that Kalachakra, it was very special because His Holiness on the spot decided that he was going to give the second, third, and fourth empowerment as well. Yeah, 2011, maybe not 2012, somewhere around there. He decided to give the second, third, and fourth, like on the spot. He said, I've decided that today I will give the second, third, and fourth. Of course, he gave it, and then I don't know what happened. I'm very sure I did not receive it. Yeah, the second, third, and fourth, even the first, maybe, barely received it. Physically present at Kalachakra, receive, I don't think so. The meaning thing quite arise, it was still maybe just intellectual, oh, yes, I'm Buddha, Anyway, yeah, the second statement says, the meaning of an empowerment has arisen in one's mind stream, then one has attained it. Rinchen Changchup, right, on page 36 at the top, he says that statement should also be read together with statement 25 in chapter 8, which says, even if one is realized, one needs ritual because the lineage is profound. Yeah, so what that is saying there is, if you take statement 2 and say that the real meaning, the real point of the empowerment is the meaning of that, and that the meaning that empowerment ritual is intended to ignite in you, right? To make come alive in you, to jumpstart your car. Even though the main point is that, it has to ignite, right? Statement 25 in chapter 8 is saying, even if you have realized the meaning, even if it has jump-started, it is still good, it is still necessary to receive that ritual. Then, if you follow the analogy of jump-starting the car, you said, so the neighbor came over, but somehow did something and started the car. I still need to do the ritual, put the jumper cables. According to this, it says, yes, you should. He says, why? In this statement, because the lineage is profound. So what does it mean? Because the lineage is profound. Is this some kind of blind loyalty to lineage? Oh, lineage, No, I think we should understand this as so that you know how it happened for you, so that then in the future, under the right circumstance, at least in theory, hard for many of us to imagine, at least in theory, we at some point will be in a position where we have to go jumpstart someone else's car. In other words, we have to empower others. And if we don't know, right, the skills that have been handed down through the lineage to be able to do that for others, then it's a fault. Of course, this should not get us excited, like, oh, I'm going to give empowerments. When are you going to learn that? When am I going to learn that? Then that's, we're not talking about that. Yeah? What we are talking about is, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, even though the main goal in empowerment is not the ritual, but the result of that ritual, which is that meaning beyond intellectual meaning, a deep realization arises within our hearts, that is ignited, that flame is lit, you still should receive the empowerment so that you connect with the skillful means that are involved, so that then you, at the appropriate time, condition, situation, you can pass on. You can help ignite other people's realization. So let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. Yeah. Now, when it gets to these there are, so this is the general meaning of like Kyobpa Rinpoche's statement. Yeah? The empowerment is received when the meaning has arisen. The meaning has arisen, has been ignited in us. And then within this, there are more subtle points that other people debate. When they hear Jigten Sumgon saying this statement, other people cast some doubts and say, well, I don't know. So part of this commentary, Khenpo Kunpal usually doesn't get into these debates. But here and there, his commentary will show us some of the debates that has gone on. Like Chodra's big volume on Gongchik commentary. Oh, Chodra, he has to cover all these debates. He has to defend, Drikung. He had a tough job for him, really tough. He had to stand up for Drikung. So then this volume, the two early commentaries, the two earliest commentaries that we do have now, called the Rinjangma, which the summary we were reading from, and the Dorshema, they don't get so much into other people say this, they say this, but then we say this. They don't, because at that time, not much yet, attention on Gongchik. A little bit later, some very learned types in Tibet start to have access. Remember, even though Gongchik was published, again, books are not very easy to get, And finally, when they got their hands on a copy of Gongchik, and they look and they say, wait a minute, I don't know, that's Vajra Statement, there's some problem. So then they wrote, to debate. But in that early period, Drikung people never responded. Several years back, I thought they never responded because they could not. They're not so trained in philosophy and debate. They are meditators in the valley. And so I thought, oh, no response because nobody could respond. They're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that is true. I don't know. But traditionalists won't say things that I just said. What do you mean they cannot respond? Of course they can respond. I don't know. It's okay. It's okay to say maybe they cannot respond. But I think more important now, what I've understood now is more importantly, I think there was no need to respond. Because Kyobpa Rinpoche said, you want to practice? Here, you come here and practice. You want to debate? You go somewhere else and debate. Because all these instructions that he has given is for practice, not for debate. Anyway, but without choice, later on, we did not respond, then they criticized more. We did not respond, they criticized more. Until Chodra's time, a few hundred years later, I think it is felt like, hey, if we don't respond, then these statements will be completely discredited by those who are publishing and debating it. So then Chodra, feels, okay, no choice. I have to step up and defend. Then counter defense, then counter defense, then la 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 la. Yes, question, comment.
Lawanla, about the empowerment, I have heard that to practice samdaiti sadhana, we need to get the empowerment and transmission for the permission to practice that sadhana, because like the sadhana has a dharmapala who keep this sadhana, and if we don't get this kind of empowerment, the dharmapala will give the punishment. Or is the explanation?
Oh,
Thank you, Lawan.
Yeah, lots of things like that, of course, especially if in Asia, it seems more real, or even in Mexico, you all live in worlds where there are, unseen things running around, in New York City, the unseen things that run around, those are really dangerous. And the rest of us in other parts of the US, we don't. Yes, of course, they say, oh, this practice, that practice, there's this dakini, that dharmapala guarding it. If you don't get the empowerment, they will come, beat you, if you practice it. I don't know. Does the Buddha give things that will harm people? No. And if the Dharmapalas are going around, beating people for not having permission to practice, maybe they should be fired. Dharmapala is not like, abusive police, Now and now we hear more and more, how abusive police is. Fundamentally, of course, the police force, or at least we like to say, fundamentally, if they're doing their job right, it's not to terrorize people. It's to really protect, right? Same, I think, like the notion of Dharmapalas, right? We have, because of our experience of like our police, which is in the best intentions, the police force is created to protect. But unfortunately, they have turned into bullies in many cases. I'm not talking about individual police, and I don't want to get into that debate, But the fact is true, And in part is, like insofar as police is concerned, you put them in these impossible positions, impossible situations, dealing with very difficult things. They are still human, and you give them weapons, what is supposed to happen, right? Same with Dharmapalas, I think. So more important, here is the point, with Dharmapalas, both in terms of how we think of them, and we tend to think of them like they are some kind of Dharma cop, Dharma police, I think this is misunderstanding what the Dharmapala's role is. First of all, the Dharmapala is to protect. Yes, in their activity of protecting, they can manifest terrifying appearance. But like a good parent who has to from time to time manifest fierceness, in doing that, the parent also have to be careful not to harm their kids. Of course, even parents who love their kids, forget about police, even parents who love their kids sometimes, when they manifest being fierce, end up harming their kids, of course. But here we say the authentic Dharma protectors will never do that. Even if they manifest very fearsome forms, it's like this parent that will never harm their kids, but will do what is necessary to protect their kids. And sometimes it's to protect their kids from harming themselves, doing stupid things. So the parent can turn very stern, You are grounded. You are not allowed to go out for 3 weeks. You're put in jail now. But would never do anything that would harm them. So real, authentic Dharmapalas will never do anything that will harm them. Like in Drikung, we say, Ajijogi Drama will never do anything that will harm. Then this question about, and to do this deity practice, we need the empowerment, we need the transmission. This is related to statement 25. That says, even if you have the realization, it is still necessary to go through the rituals, because the rituals is part of the skills that the lineage carries. That's what statement 25 is saying. So I think it's better to have that understanding than to, I would say that the idea, you need to receive empowerment transmission before you can do the practice. If not, the Dharmapalas will get you. Yeah, that is a skillful means, but can lead to unskillful consequences if we have wrong view about what is the true meaning of Dharmapalas. And often I can say from my experience at Dharma centers, this has become very unskillful. This emphasis, you need to receive empowerment, you need to receive transmission. If you don't, bad things will happen to you. They are often used by people at centers as what? As demonstrating their power over you. I have, you don't have. You cannot do. I'm allowed to do. Very unhealthy. I've also seen, I'm just being frank, teachers using that to control students. I'm not giving it to you, but I'm giving it to this, to this, to that. Causing. Of course, in the real work of a teacher, yes, the teacher will give this practice to this person, but not this person, this person, this person. That is part and parcel of what, just like a doctor, right? If you go to a doctor, it's not like the doctor gives everybody the same medicine, because different people have different illness, But the doctor doesn't go about making the patients jealous. I got this medicine, you didn't get that medicine. But in Dharma centers, some teachers, some senior Sangha members create that scene, that scenario, that cause jealousy, that becomes control, that becomes power. Very unskillful. So the more skillful way is really, I think, statement 25 of chapter 8. That says, even when you have realization already of the meaning of the empowerment, you should still appreciate the methods. Rituals here means the methods for making that realization arise. And for that reason, you should receive. So now when we receive empowerments, we have a different attitude, Not out of fear that, some Dharmapala is going to harm us if we don't. Because the real Dharmapalas will never do things like that. The not so real Dharmapalas, try not to have anything to do with them. The difference between a police that is really motivated by wanting to protect you and those who have gotten lost with their powers. Same thing like parents who really, care about you, and parents who really have no business being parents, then causing a lot of suffering. Same, I think this idea. And ultimately, receiving empowerment is not about to practice this deity, this deity, this deity, this deity, that deity. It's not. It has become kind of this cultural thing, I will read to you if I can find it. Yeah, this is in the context of the Bardo teachings that have been just started. Tselen Naso Rangdo, the author of the main text that I'm using, he here talks about, let me see if I can find that passage. He says, he talks about empowerment. Here, empowerment, he says. Empowerment, as most of the masters of the present dark age perform the ritual, and the way it is received these days, he says, empowerments, as most of the masters of the present dark age perform this ritual, and the way it is received rarely accord with the tantras and the tradition of the Vidyadhara forefathers. Many lamas perform the empowerments to gather wealth for themselves or for the sake of advantage and fame. Similarly, the disciples who are requesting empowerment simply seek protection against temporary harm, such as sickness and demonic influences, such as prestige or companionship. So yeah, protection against temporary harm, such as sickness. Oh, I want medicine Buddha empowerment. I want medicine Buddha empowerment. Protection against demonic influences. Oh, can you give me this wrathful deity, that wrathful deity? Can I have Vajrapani? Can I have Vajakilaya? Prestige and companionship. Oh, can you give Gurukule? Can you give Gurukule, please? Entertainment. Ooh, I want to go to some big fancy empowerment, so many things to see. Or merely the satisfaction of their curiosity. Besides receiving the empowerment with these attitudes, they lack the substance of pure faith and seemingly cannot even get a fraction of the transmission of the nature of the empowerment. In short, where both master and disciple are involved in an empowerment of deceit, childish play, and parroting, there is obviously no means for ripening the person's mind. So the real reason for empowerment is to ripen, to mature your mind, to ignite your mind, to ignite your realization. He goes on to say, in the meeting between a genuine vessel and the content, which is the elixir, the nectar, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter whether or not the superficial empowerment articles are placed on one's head. When the wisdom of the nature of the empowerment has dawned, has arisen within one's own being, that is the ultimate receiving of a true empowerment. For example, when Naropa awoke from fainting after being struck by Tilopa's shoe, he realized the ultimate nature of empowerment. Or like the learned Vairochana who was given an apple by the great Pandita Sri Singha, and through the gesture of giving, obtain the entire Dzogchen empowerment of awareness display. The point is that one should not emphasize merely whether one has or has not received a certain empowerment, but rather should consider whether or not it has ripened your mind, it has ignited that understanding within you. Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. To enter the Vajrayana and practice it, one first needs to obtain an empowerment. Moreover, the Vajra master and the disciple need to be qualified, and all the auspicious conditions need to come together. Then the parts of the ritual must be complete, so that each of the various qualities will arise in the disciple's mind stream from the ritual preparations up through the completion of the main part. So there are many, many details actually in an empowerment. And that's why very extensively the Kala Chakra have so many, like 11 subdivisions of the Vase empowerment. And each of those were devised as a way, right, so that various qualities of your Buddha nature is being revealed. Is you're giving a chance, let's put it that way, for that realization to arise in your heart. And so that's why he says, so it's important to follow those. The defilements of defilements of seeing one's three doors as separate from the Guru's three doors, body, speech, and mind, three doors, needs to be purified. Seeing ourselves as separate from the Guru, that's the main purification that we have to do. And one must be enabled to practice the generation and completion stage practices properly. So one of the purposes of empowerment is to prepare you for the creation stage and the completion stage practices. Therefore, the wisdom of the meaning of the empowerment must be correctly recognized in the context of receiving empowerment and arise in one's mind stream so that the aggregates, elements, and sense sources are recognized through the Vase empowerment to be empty appearances and the mandala of the deity. Through the secret empowerment, the meditative concentration of clarity and emptiness should be realized. Through the wisdom empowerment, the clear light of bliss and emptiness should be recognized. And through the fourth empowerment, the unfabricated and inborn ultimate wisdom should be recognized. So here he briefly brings up the four empowerments, and for each of the empowerment, what is the realization that needs to be recognized? If this happens, it is the best case, meaning the meaning of each of the four empowerments arises. So right now, if completely we don't understand it, then if during receiving the empowerment, some intellectual understanding arises, very good. Further down the road, more than intellectual, something deeper arises with regards to these. So here's a very good summary. Through the Vase empowerment, you recognize the aggregates, the elements, and the sense sources, meaning this body, and the types of mind in cooperation with the sense organs, perceives the sensory world. All of this, if they are realized to be empty appearances and the mandala of the deity, then that meaning has arisen in you. Then, when giving the secret empowerment, if you realize clarity and emptiness, then that realization has arisen. Then in the third empowerment, the wisdom knowledge empowerment, or the knowing the wisdom empowerment, clear light of bliss and emptiness. If you recognize that, then that meaning has arisen. Finally, in the fourth empowerment, the unfabricated and inborn ultimate wisdom. If you realize that, then that meaning has arisen. So if this happens, it is the best case. In the average case, one understands and realizes the vital points of the practice of these various empowerments and thereby gains experience in them. So in the middling case, if no deep realization has arisen, at least you understand. So receiving this base empowerment, now I have confidence I can practice creating myself as in the image of a deity. So it's to that degree that the deities are practiced, not like for healing disease, overcoming demons, all those things. Those are just side effects. It's to become Buddha. Main way to become Buddha, main meaning of becoming Buddha is the three obscurations are finished. Mental defilements removed, self-cherishing abandoned, other cherishing completely realized. That's why we practice creation stage, generation stage. In the least case, one gives rise to an unmistaken understanding of the meaning of the words and gains an idea of the deeper meanings. Meaning intellectually, you understand everything without mistake. When these cases happen, Jigten Sumgon maintains. So whether it's the lower, the middle, or the highest, any of these three, Jigten Sumgon maintains that then you have obtained the empowerment. If it does not happen like that, one does not obtain the bestowed empowerment. So even if the empowerment is bestowed, is given, you have not received it yet. Because it is no different from bestowing an empowerment on soil and stones. So the Lama, dang, 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 put it on stone and rocks, no matter how much dang, 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 this, that, the soil and the rocks will never become Buddhas, One time, very fortunate. So now, all this emphasis, okay, let me say this first, on the meaning. That the meaning has to arise. We also should not then go so far as to say, then the rituals and the details not important. No, it's not like that. Just because a lot of people get distracted by all the rituals and all the mythologies, right? All of that, it doesn't mean we should ignore that. We should bring those two together. Because why the lineage has developed or devised these means of giving empowerment is based on them being effective. Using this, it's because it has been effective. Just because other people now misuse this doesn't mean that this has no purpose. So we should do it the right, proper way. But for the most part, now receiving empowerments is just nobody has any idea what's going on. Probably the one giving don't really have any idea what's going on. And the one receiving, even more so, have no idea what's going on. So one time I started saying, we were fortunate. His Holiness the Drikung Dharmakirti gave 50 empowerments over a period of 11 days. Some of us were there. I can remember, I know Judy was there. Maria Carmen was there in this group here. So over 11 days, 50 empowerments, because there's a collection of 50 deities that since Chodra's time, and maybe 1 or 2 generations before Chodra, Dharmakirti, in the 17th century, has been passed down to Drikung Dharmakirti, the set of 50 deities. The one of the attendees there, she was there the truth is she was there not because she was like, I want the 50 empowerments, but because she was basically close to the people who were hosting the empowerment, and she herself is actually Tibetan, and Tibetan growing up very close to the monastery, because her parents were deeply involved in one particular monastery, small monastery, but very good monastery with a very good Lama. So she grew up basically, in that environment, and has gone to many empowerment rituals, So then she attended this 11 days because she was there, right? But she was so blown away in those 11 days. And she said, all these years, from small, I have been going to these empowerments because of where I grew up. She's like, but I never know what is going on. The Lama who gives empowerments never explain what is going on. He says, until now, he says, the irony that I'm in the United States. And for the first time, she said, I have some understanding of what in the world these things are. The Lama she grew up with, I know, it's a good Lama, but the cultural force is so strong, right, that even when a good Lama gives empowerment, the style is that most people either not interested, or even I think there's a feeling like the Lama giving the empowerment has a feeling that those who are that he has trained, that he has trained really well, I think there's a feeling like for those, he doesn't have to say much. So he can just perform the ritual. They recognize what is going on. That's it. Then often a lot of other people come. So maybe why, they don't want to say too much, because they feel that if they say too much, and a lot of these people who don't have any much background come, they hear little things, then they get all confused, then even more. So it's not always like out of the wrong reason they don't explain. But it's also if people don't have the right background, hearing certain things can cause misunderstanding. So in part also why in the old country, so to say, the Lamas, when they give empowerments, they don't explain a lot, because it might cause misunderstanding. Then as for those who have the background, I don't need to explain so much, they understand. So it's like the Kalachakra in 2011 with His Holiness Dalai Lama, The vase empowerment, which he has given publicly many times, then he explained all the stages. Then the other 3 empowerments, he did not elaborate. And I think it's because, it's inappropriate to elaborate in a stadium of 40,000 people, and you have no idea, right, where their background is, what they know, what they don't know. So he just says exactly what is said in the text. If you understand, you understand. If you don't understand, you don't understand. And that's okay. So that's also part of the reason. I don't want you to think, everything that is done now is wrong. There's a reason, also. Even what seems wrong, there is a reason. And if we can understand more the difficulties that everyone is facing, then maybe then we can understand on the one hand, but we can have an understanding that doesn't need to put down others, don't need to be like criticizing others, and don't need to give rise to pride. Oh, we know better. Empowerment is like this. All this is wrong. Try to see both sides. Yeah. But seeing both sides, we still have to choose, what we should do. Then, of course, what we should do it the right way as much as possible. As to what is wrong, we need to recognize that it is wrong, but we don't need to judge, because these circumstances are very complex, very complicated. It's not as simple as, just do the right thing. No, not so simple, Yeah?